And now for our feature story, The Hidden History of the Ghostbusters.
Hey Ghost Heads, it's Heidi from Channeling Spirits. We are re-examining and updating our history of Ghostbusters series. This video will go over the timeline of events that happened before and during the first film. We'll be using media that is considered canon, as well as soft canon and speculation. If you've seen our previous videos, you'll know Peter and Ray were assistant professors, while Egon was an associate professor before starting their own business. All of them completed the pilot program of parapsychology at Columbia University and received doctorates.
Exactly what are you a doctor of?
Meanwhile, Winston was a sergeant in the Marines, serving at Pearl Harbor as VP Tactics and training at Pacific Headquarters. In the August 5th, 1983 draft, Peter says, "Ray, in the past 12 months, we have investigated 72 such aberrations and seen absolutely nothing. And now you interrupt the most important meeting of our personal lives to tell me about aberration number 73? Referring to the Gray Lady. However, in the October 7th, 1983 script, it was changed to every psychic occurrence in the tri-state area for the past 2 years, while in the final film, the only information we get is,
"You guys have been running your ass off, meeting and greeting every schizo in the 5 boroughs who says he has a paranormal experience. What have you seen?"
It seems the boys had been conducting paranormal investigations since 1982 or 1983. In the August draft, Peter is meeting with the Board of Regents in hopes of continuing their grant. He exhibits a 35mm slideshow. The Shropshire Demon, ladies and gentlemen, blamed for numerous livestock mutilations in the area, and sketched by a local artist in 1910 from actual eyewitness accounts. Scary. In Shropshire, England, there is a rock formation known as the Devil's Chair, but they've never had any true reports of demons or mutilations. Here, extreme structural damage to a house caused by unknown, unseen hyperkinetic forces in a poltergeist incident in Vermont. There doesn't exist a famous poltergeist in Vermont, but in nearby Long Island, there was the infamous Amityville horror that occurred 9 years prior. While there was some supposed damage to the house, there was a strong belief that a poltergeist, or worse, was dwelling in the house. Here, rashes, bites, and welts from a case we studied in northern Quebec. That had to hurt. Here, an accidental double exposure of a snapshot showing people who were hundreds of miles away at the same time the picture was taken. Incredible! Here, a bent spoon. Self-explanatory.
There is no spoon.
Dean Harold Yeager interrupts and asks if he has ever actually seen a ghost. Peter explains just last week they went out to study a rockfall. Stones and pebbles somehow materialized and fell out of the sky from an untraceable source. Sadly, the boys got there just after it happened. The rockfall would have occurred on September 8th, 1984, with Peter's meeting being on September 14th. How do we know this? Well, to start, the official novelization Ghostbusters: The Supernatural Spectacular by Richard Mueller begins on a bright sunny day in early autumn. But more specifically, it says the encounter in the library happens on a sunny September day. September 14th was a Friday, giving enough time for the Board of Regents to decide to end the parapsychology grant. It would also make sense that Peter would conduct an extracurricular experiment on a Saturday, September 15th, while Ray and Egon didn't have classes to teach. They would be free to explore the library and hear about the Gray Lady at
1:40 p.m.
This would also be the date where Winston gets a construction gig in New York, as seen in IDW's Ghostbusters Year 1, Issue 1. He is part of the crew that built 550 Madison Ave. Egon already has a fully functioning PKE meter which was hinted in Ghostbusters Year 1, Number 2. In it, Ray admits it was largely Egon's work, but he did suggest a few tweaks. The IDW virtual trading card for Ray states he and Egon conceived of and built all of the ghost-busting equipment, starting with the PKE meter. Given U.S. banks are closed on Sundays, September 17th is the most likely date on when the trio decided to obtain a second mortgage on Ray's childhood home.
But at 19%, you didn't even bargain with the guy.
After obtaining a line of equity, this is likely when the boys put out an ad for a secretary and began setting up the business. Several days later, on September 20th, is most likely when the boys met with a real estate agent and bought the firehouse.
I think we'll take it.
Random tangent, but in the August 5th, 1983 draft, it describes that Spengler's 57 Saab is parked outside an abandoned brick 4-story fire station, which didn't make it into the filming script. But the final film does appear to have a Saab 900 parked outside the firehouse.
Coincidence? I think not!
It may seem implausible, but Dan loves his cars.
This car wasn't an FBI car, but it belonged to the State Department. See that?
Anyway, by September 21st, Janine would have answered the ad for the secretary. 2 days later, the disturbances on the 12th floor of the Sedgwick Hotel started up again, even though...
It's been quiet for years, up until 2 weeks ago.
On September 27th, the boys likely filmed their commercial, probably with Janine organizing the production. That would give it enough time to be edited and aired for Dana Barrett to see it on October 3rd. Sometime in between, Ray bought a 1959 Cadillac in need of repair.
Need some suspension work, and shocks, and brakes, brake pads, lining, steering box, transmission, rear end. How much?
Only $4,800. Maybe new rings, also mufflers, a little wiring.
After grocery shopping, Dana finds an interdimensional gateway in her fridge. That's cool. 2 days later, Dana would visit the firehouse and explain the incident.
And this voice said, Zool. And then I slammed the refrigerator door and I left. That was 2 days ago, and I haven't been back to my apartment.
Quick note, Ray's purchase of the Ecto-1 and Dana's visit do not occur on the same day, despite the editing making it seem like they do. Peter and Ray both have different outfits. Since Peter's shirt doesn't change as he enters Dana's apartment, they clearly came directly from the firehouse. The next day, Winston walks away from his construction job in New York after the foreman's nephew almost hit him with a wrench he dropped 3 stories up. Then on the evening of October 7th, the boys are enjoying
The last of the petty cash.
Again, the editing gives the appearance that this is the same day of investigating Dana's apartment.
To our first customer.
But Peter, Ray, Egon, and even Janine are all wearing different outfits. Also, Ray was still working on the Ecto-1, which hadn't even been painted yet when Dana arrived. We also see Egon tinkering with the 4th Neutrona wand. According to the September 30th, 1983 script, a newlywed couple at the Sedgwick Hotel first encounters Slimer at 9:45 p.m. The deleted scene shows the clock closer to 10:48 p.m., which makes sense considering the hotel staff was preparing for a midnight buffet for Mrs. Van Hoffman and the East Side Theater Guild. Also, who eats at midnight? A midnight buffet? Shortly after, the Ghostbusters are called and arrive. But how do we know they came at this date? During the montage, a series of newspapers are shown. The first by USA Today, which is dated October 8th, 1984. It ran so early, their photographer didn't even have time to develop a photo. The report likely happened as journalists swarmed the boys following their first bust. IDW's Ghostbusters Year 1, Issue 4 details that while trying to move Slimer into the containment unit, it falters and he escapes. Egon eventually traps him again, on his own. While all the articles feature 1984 as their publishing date, there is one moment of contradiction in the film. Hanging above City Hall is a banner about furnishing the streets in 83. Maybe it was left up? The other articles corroborate the year, with the last one published on October 22nd, 1984. In our original video, we predicted this was when Winston Zeddemore was hired and interviewed.
Making it possible that Winston was hired on October 22nd.
IDW clearly watched our videos and agreed with us. But why this date? Well, it's 2 weeks from October 8th, and Janine complains.
All I do know is that I've been working 2 weeks without a break, and you promised me you'd hire more help.
Which lines up perfectly when the boys in gray exploded in the media. By the 22nd, they are exhausted and hire Winston on the spot. Shortly after, Peter speaks with Walter Peck. According to Ghostbusters Year 1, Issue 1, Winston went through proton pack training during sunset, blasting pumpkins. 88 miles per hour's Ghostbusters, Zeddemore Factor says 4 hours after being hired, he took out several pterodactyl specters in a museum. But IDW says he wouldn't encounter an ectoplasmic entity until about 2 days later on October 24th. Winston is only on the job for a few weeks before the Manhattan cross-rip.
Look, I've only been with the company for a couple of weeks.
By the 30th, Peter finally reports to Dana about Zool. What took him so long? Well, they have been busy. Maybe Peter mentioned he was meeting with their first client, which reminded Ray to go to the Hall of Records. Regardless, Peter offers to meet with Dana on Thursday.
Bye, well, I'll see you Thursday.
Which would have been November 1st. This date falls on Samhain, a Celtic celebration where the veil between this world and the next is weakened.
Ray, has it ever occurred to you that maybe the reason we've been so busy lately is because the dead have been rising from the grave?
November 1st is also part of Dia de los Muertos, another celebration of those who have passed. 88 miles per hour's Ghostbusters Legion number 2 offers the interesting hypothesis that maybe the massive rise in the dead is because Manhattan was literally built on a Native American burial ground. Regardless, the next morning, Peck arrives and shuts off the containment unit. All 4 are arrested while the Keymaster and Gatekeeper meet. All hell breaks loose, prompting the mayor to release them and face Gozer. IDW confirms the cross-rip happened in November. So there we have it, a timeline of events that transpired during the autumn of 1984 and actions that brought the 4 founders together. Check out our other videos for the rest of their history and our case file explorations on other ectoplasmic manifestations. If you enjoyed this video and think we deserve it,
You've earned it.
please subscribe. Be sure to check out our official merchandise, including exclusive blueprints of your favorite ghost-busting gear. Check out the link in the description to see what's available. Select Patreon tiers get 5 to 10% off. Woo! As always, keep coming back for more spooktacular videos. I'm Heidi with Channeling Spirits, and thanks for watching.